So the conversation around consoles lately has been kind of shite. Let's be honest. On one side, you have the Xbox people who it seems in their desire to keep bigging up their platform, which of course they should. But it just seems that they have just gone completely off the deep end, like just completely way delusional. And I know that for a long time it has been this way, but now it just seems exceptional to me. Go take a look at one of Podorok's latest videos, and he's breaking down these Xbox podcasters and sort of just the nonsense that they're coming up with, the double standards. A lot of people, no, on those podcasts, for example, they made the point that nobody would really need or be attracted to a PlayStation 5 Pro. Of course, that's debatable. It will always be a niche product. On that, we can understand. And if the discussion stopped there within that realm of skepticism, healthy skepticism, there will be no issue, right? You can even be pessimistic about it, because I believe that the PlayStation 5 Pro should cost a lot more money in order to be a bigger jump from the base console than the PlayStation 4 Pro was from the PlayStation 4. So you can say, well, Emmanuel, it's already a niche product. You want it to now be an expensive niche product. Here is a healthy amount of, even an abundance of skepticism. That would be fine. But when you say things like, Sony will have no game to showcase the power of this, again, it sounds fair on the surface level, but this was not the point that you brought up when the Series X came out and it was supposed to be the world's most powerful console, and then it had no game to showcase that power with. In fact, the refrain there was that backwards compatibility was so great that you're just going to play those games at a better performance. So it's like, wouldn't the same apply to the PlayStation 5 Pro? But even more so, because now it can pull from the PlayStation 5 and now the PlayStation 4 generation as well, just like the standard PlayStation 5 is doing. So that's what makes it appear disingenuous. On the other side, you have, like a lot of, what do I call them, disgruntled. But to this point, it's just like, they're just spoiled sports now. You just, they seem, their hatred of the PlayStation 5, actually, it's not even the PlayStation 5, really. I think the hatred stems from the fact that Sony's marketing approach has completely shifted, and they do not want to embrace, I guess, the new standard or the new way of doing things. And I mean, listen, PlayStation is now under new supervision, right? It takes a long time to turn a new ship, to turn a big ship, but you could say that under Helmut Holtz and the other one, but primarily Helmut Holtz, that the marketing strategy could kind of return to what it used to be in the past. And I know lots of people will be happy about that. Personally, it wouldn't really be my cup of tea. I really like this system. I've said it plenty of times before, but for me, there's no point in us knowing about the game more than 18 months out. I just don't see it. I don't see a game experience that was made better because I had to wait longer, or because I was excited, or I had to be hyped for longer. Like, no, in fact, for me, like, honestly, if a game could be announced and then released within a month, that would be fantastic. But I understand that marketing cycles are things that exist, and you want to push that out. Like, again, that's why I say up to 18 months to give those kind of like real life things, time to actually happen. So, but for me, yeah, man, listen, I just, like, when it comes to TV shows, I do my best not to watch trailers. I love it when I stumble upon a show, and not only is it great, not only is it highly recognized and the fans are enjoying it and everything, but all of the episodes are out. For example, I just watched Kaiju number 8. Absolutely great anime. It's fun, it's lighthearted. In fact, I wish it was a little bit darker, but it's just a great time. I really, really enjoyed that anime. But guess what? I had no idea. Okay, one person told me about it, then another person told me about it, then another person told me about it. By the time 3 people that I trust tell me about it, I'm like, okay, I'm watching this. And all of the episodes were out, everything was good. It was just brilliant. I would love that for a game. Like, I remember when I played Horizon Zero Dawn for the first time. At that time that it was being announced in trailers and everything, I saw it, but I dismissed it. I didn't even know it was made by Guerrilla, that Guerrilla was a first party studio. At that time, I didn't know any of those details. I just saw it and I was like, that seems too ambitious, too good to be true. By the time I came around to playing it, it was done. Like, it was fantastic. The DLC wasn't out yet, so I got to play kind of in the interim period. But I played it like a year or so later, and I loved it. Like it was basically like a brand new discovery, and it was available to me, and I could just play the game. I don't understand the fervor for give me a roadmap. I don't understand that. I don't understand why people require that. It can be nice to have. I appreciate that. And it can be good to have something to look forward to. You know, a formula for happiness that was posited to me once was you need something to look forward to, you need something to do, and you need somebody to love or something like that. Something close to that. Um, and so I understand the element of, oh, I desire something to look forward to as a gamer. So a roadmap can be a thing. But there's a difference between desiring something or being able to appreciate that thing to then kind of banish the entire console generation simply because of that thing. Because for me, it's not a gaming thing. The roadmap isn't gaming. The roadmap is looking forward to the game. It's not playing the game. It's not the reception of the game. It's not the quality of the game. You know, take a look at Hellblade 2. Hellblade 2 was announced in 2019. Before or just at the same event as the console was initially announced. 5 years later, right? It is now in our hands. We play for 5 hours and it's a mediocre experience at best. I think it's Unfortunately, I think it's trash. It really, really is. I mean, it's not garbage in that, in and of itself is bad. It's garbage compared to what it's following up on. Because I actually think that Hellblade One, which I played, which I nearly platinum because they had it was a collectible that stopped me from platinuming it. I think that one was a great 8 out of 10 experience. 9 out of 10 if you only look at the positives. If you look at some of the negatives, it starts to go down a little bit. You know, Hellblade 1 is somewhere between a 6 and a 9. Again, depending on how impactful that experience was to you personally. The more impactful you have, for some people it's one of the favorite games ever, and I can fully understand that. For me, it's closer to an 8 or a 9 out of 10 because I like to look at the positives of Hellblade because it was from a small studio, so I accept that there are going to be some things that are simply not going to be there. You cannot rank everybody like equally, I suppose. Compared to that, the 5 hour experience that I had with Hellblade, no, with me it was actually 8 hours. The 8 hour experience that I had with Hellblade 2, where I platinumed it, the equivalent for Xbox, right? Got the 1,000 out of 1,000 achievement for it. You can find it on the interwebs, E4 Extreme for Xbox. It just wasn't worth it. It just didn't live up to expectation. So in any case, I found that that's why I haven't been putting videos, because you have one or two things. Either you're trying to refute, and it seems like you're defending the PlayStation 5 in this generation and the amazing brilliance that it is, or you are trying to like counter delude people. You know, like you're trying to put the anti-propaganda for all of this delusion on the Xbox side, and it gets tiring after a while. You know, nobody pays you for doing this. So all of that went to say, I want to talk about Bungie. Let's talk about Bungie first. Now, I was going to put a bit more effort into this video, and I was going to go and find the PlayStation blog article when the first announced Bungie was joining PlayStation, no, Sony, but it wasn't joining PlayStation, and they were going to keep the game multiplayer. I had a very angry comment because that's what I used to do. I used to actually be more on the PlayStation blog than Twitter or YouTube. And I wrote a comment along the lines of, I don't understand why you're putting this on the PlayStation blog. It has nothing to do with us. Because as PlayStation gamers, we were getting absolutely nothing out of it. You know, $3.6 billion or something, one of the biggest purchases they've ever made. I think it is the biggest purchase that Sony has ever made for a gaming studio. And it did nothing for the PlayStation fan base. So I was really angry because I was like, put this on like Sony.com. Don't put it on the PlayStation blog. You're literally saying, hey, we're not part of PlayStation and we're not giving you on PlayStation any extra benefits or anything whatsoever. It's not like they were putting the game day and date into PlayStation Plus now. Like you were not getting anything. So I thought that it was a terrible announcement. And I thought that you could look at it in two ways, which I suppose is still true. You could look at it from a business perspective. Sony is entering live service markets with, aplomb, and they want to, fire at the time. They wanted 12 live services in like 4 years or something ridiculous like that. So it's good to have some people to steer the ship, people that have some kind of experience to help you navigate that moment because you're going in hard. That made sense. Is that $3.6 billion worth of sense? Well, I'm not actually being paid to think about that. But as a PlayStation gamer, I thought it was ridiculous because we weren't getting anything. Now, it's been a few years since then, right? Looking back, I'm really happy. I'm really happy with the purchase. Let me tell you why. Because they saved Naughty Dog. Okay? Bungie still does nothing for me. I don't play Destiny 2. Okay? I'm not looking forward to Marathon. I have no idea what Marathon is. Like, and I don't care for Bungie's pedigree. Like, Halo isn't a game where I'm like, oh yeah, Halo. Like, not me. Okay? And again, no disrespect to like the original Halo trilogy that they walked on or whatever. I'm sure those games are great. They just they didn't reach me because I didn't have an Xbox and I was never that interested. And I don't think that getting an Xbox for old Halo games is something that I'm going to do. Now, should they make remasters and remakes, I will be interested in checking that out. But in any case, I am happy because they saved Naughty Dog from themselves and from their ambitions. That is the best that Bungie will probably ever do for me as a PlayStation gamer, saving Naughty Dog. Perhaps they're also going to save Guerrilla, perhaps they're also going to save Sucker Punch and all of these other PlayStation studios that are traditional single-player studios thinking that they can become live service studios. That's really the best that I can expect from them. So these layoffs, listen, there's always a human component. Nobody wants to like cheer on people losing their jobs. Absolutely not. You should make a livelihood. You should feel stable in your job. We feel for you. There is so much that you can talk about the human element, who is in the leadership, who is at fault and everything. I don't want to talk about none of that, okay? I just want to talk about the reality of the studio, okay? The reality of the studio is that Bungie has very little to offer me beyond just, I guess, consulting with other actual PlayStation studios, in order to give them their expertise on live service games. Here's the thing. From that point of view, I'm happy that one new PlayStation studio will be born from this particular move, and we will have I believe, a single player story. I think that's what it will be, right? A single player game anyway, to play. So that's exciting, but I think that studio is only getting like 40 to 70 or something people in it at the beginning. So yeah, not really something that I can say that I look forward to. I look forward to it, but not something I'm excited for right now because we don't know what the game is, we don't know what the IP is, we don't know who's making it, we don't even know what the studio name is going to be called, we don't know where they will be located. Not that any of these things will necessarily make me more excited, but you just see the lack of information that we have around this particular project. So whenever it comes, it's fine. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think that Bungie is going to do much for me in the lifespan of being under Sony and not on the PlayStation. Now, should they be on the PlayStation? Absolutely. PlayStation has been a great steward for studios. PlayStation gamers should get exclusives out of things that Sony own. I'm sorry, we should. This whole you're putting games everywhere thing. So what, now all of our games are going to be limited by the power of the Series S, even though we are on PlayStation? That doesn't make sense to me. Putting your games on PC where you have to account for like a 960 card. That doesn't make sense to me. So I don't know why I wouldn't want you to be a part of actual PlayStation and make PlayStation exclusive games. Screw PC, screw Xbox, screw Nintendo Switch. Like, I don't care for those people. And those people's parent companies did not, not that I have a parent company, but you understand, those people's platform holder companies, whatever thing, they didn't purchase you. So I don't understand why I would root for them. Like, no, make your games PlayStation exclusive, worry about the PlayStation 5 or the 5 Pro or the 6 or the 7, however it is, and then make that a primary platform and screw everything else, because that's the platform that I'm on and that's what I'm supporting. So yeah, it's cool. Listen, I hope that Sony takes over Bungie, and I hope that those people can fix whatever issues that they're having as an organization, and I hope that they can provide a stable livelihood for the people that they have now, and hopefully that they can grow up again and they can hire more people in the future, including of course the people that they let go, because it's always kind of shitty if a person lets you go but then they need the same position, they don't hire you back. Like, if you need the same position, try to hire back as many other people that you let go. It is what it is. So that's Bungie. Another thing I want to talk about, I guess, a little bit following on, is simply the notion of live service games, right? I was thinking about it the other day, and I was thinking, what do I want from Sony's multiplayer output? First of all, I do want multiplayer games. Like I don't I don't understand this notion that PlayStation gamers don't like playing multiplayer games. PlayStation as a platform has some of the biggest multiplayer gamers, whether you're looking at third party games or some of the first party games, you know, we play multiplayer games more than most other platforms, you know. Um, what I want then is simply I want I want traditional multiplayer games, and I want niche multiplayer games. Take a look at the Ghost of Tsushima Legends. Take a look at an Uncharted 4 multiplayer. Take a look at the Last of Us Factions. Take a look at the Gran Turismo 7. I want these niche multiplayer experiences that can exist around the periphery of what PlayStation offers, but not necessarily be like a super hardcore component of what PlayStation is. Even Helldivers 2, I think now is moving into a niche. I think it had this mainstream moment. It had this viral moment, right? But I feel like it's now becoming more and more niche. The people that are now staying on are the people that are like, yeah, I love this experience. And I think a year or two from now, even if the numbers are still at like 100,000 on Steam or 200,000 on Steam or even 500,000 on Steam, I still think that those people will be the ones that are like, yeah, I love this singular experience. Like, I love what this product offers. Another thing that I would like PlayStation to do is really be like the king of co-op multiplayer. You take a look at Returnal. Returnal has a fantastic co-op system for the single player side of for the story side of the experience. The campaign. That's what I should say. They have a great co-op experience for the campaign, but then they also have an arcade repeatable die and try again level in the Tower of Sisyphus, but that one is single player only, which doesn't make sense. It would be so amazing to play that arcade style setup as a local co-op or even just as an internet co-op experience. You take a look at God of War Ragnarok. It would be great to play that with a friend as a co-op experience. You take a look at, they just released I still haven't played it, right? But the Last of Us No Return mode. It would be great to play those as co-op experiences. I don't understand why Sony hasn't actually like locked into this idea of like, hey, we can take these items, these multiplayer ish or these single player, especially the roguelike modes, and just make those like local co-op, even if it's just with one person. Like if you can make it with 4 people, fantastic, right? But if you can make it even just with one, I think if you have 1 or 2 people, you don't need to change the map size or the maps dramatically or the geometry dramatically. You may need to tune the AI a little bit, but I feel like the geometry of the place probably doesn't need to change drastically. If you were to have 4 people running around in something like the Last of Us No Return mode, yeah, you probably might want some bigger maps to accommodate for that. But that will mean more work. I understand that. But just 2-person co-op, whether that's local or over the internet, I think would be tremendously fantastic. Okay. Again, niche experiences. I don't need everything to be a live service. I honestly don't really want Sony to achieve a Fortnite. Like Fortnite is a juggernaut and it requires something like 1 to 2,000 devs. That's crazy. That is crazy. There's no PlayStation studio that's anywhere near the size of that. In fact, the closest one was Bungie, right? But again, not the PlayStation studio, it's just owned by Sony. But there's no equivalent on the PlayStation studio side that is going to be able to man, the kind of bewildering like size and scope and ambition of something like a Fortnite. Even a Call of Duty basically took over Activision. Take-Two, GTA Online pretty much took over Take-Two. I don't really want Sony necessarily to achieve those heights. Not because I don't want them to make money or to become richer, blah, blah, blah. It's not about that. But it's that those things, they can generate a lot, but they're also like a black hole. And you're going to want to pull talent from like other parts of your studios. You're going to want the most talented people. If you had a juggernaut like that, you want the most talented people on it. That means artists, that means designers, producers, creators. Where do you think they're going to pull that talent from? They're going to source it from other PlayStation studios. They're going to be like, hey, Corey Barlock, listen, mate. Really great story that you wrote for God of War. Okay, but listen, we're gonna have this chapter expansion season thing, and we need your talent. Okay, so forget about the little cutesy bitsy thing you're making, because that thing is gonna make us half of what we make on this thing in one day in microtransactions. So just come to us, okay, for the next 3 months. Yeah, put that thing on hold, and then just write this season for us. And then when he does a bang up job, they're gonna be like, yeah. Could you stay? Could you stay here permanently? We're gonna make you stay. When we say could you, we meant you will. So that's what you get. Yeah, no. So I don't necessarily need Sony to achieve, Call of Duty, what they call it, Warzone, Fortnite, what's another, GTA Online, and all of those mega huge gargantuan successes. That's not what I'm looking for. Another thing is I really want a traditional multiplayer kind of service. There was a debate, I think, on Podworks podcast. Maybe it was on Podworks. But the people were talking about, I think it was on Podworks podcast, the difference between live service and multiplayer games. Because when you take a look at a lot of even older, PS3 era multiplayer games, you really can call a lot of the components the same as live service. But for me, the difference isn't so much the player experience with a live service game versus a multiplayer game, but it's the behind the scenes experience. It's the studio's experience. Because like I said, a live service can be great. It can be a ton of money generator, It can go with the microtransactions and everything. But those things did exist back then. The difference is a live service is a beast that needs to be constantly fed. Because when I take a look at Battlefield Bad Company 2, it had DLCs, and yes, you could spend a lot of money overall buying all those DLCs. But the thing is, it was made by probably what was at the time a normal size studio. We understood that the content was going to come once every 3 or 4 months, not every single week, not every single day, not every single, season, quote unquote, coming up with brand new content and tons of microtransactions and everything like that. So I think a live service game, when it is massive, like a Genshin Impact, it requires somewhere between 600 to 2,000 developers. That's the kind of beast that it is. That's the kind of manpower it takes to wrestle that thing into something good, into something focused, into something that is constantly going to deliver what the audience is experiencing. By contrast, I think like a great multiplayer experience can be made with something like 50 to 300 developers. Completely different scope, completely different ambitions. Yes, a completely different lifespan for the game, because people will dip in and out. People will come in at the beginning, play the content, and then be done and finished. But I really like that approach better. I think also that there is a pathway for people to start out as a multiplayer game, and then only once it has proven itself as a super desirable multiplayer game, should it then become a live service games? Maybe. So let me take the example. You take a look at something like Ghost of Tsushima Legends, right? Came out, people loved it. Okay, great. Now imagine that it came out and it had made a ton of money immediately and people really loved it and it really went viral. Only then should you then be like, okay, let's see if we can convert this into a live service. Let's see if we can man up the people to push us to that, 500 to 600 developers only on this particular game. Whereas you take a look at something like Concord, before you've even put out your first, poster, teaser, concept art, perhaps even title, you're already calling it a live service game. You're already saying, hey, we're going to have this year for at least what? I mean, the ambition is what? At least 5 years, right? Most of them try to aim for a 10-year. Perhaps it would be better to start out as a multiplayer experience, like a box package. Just give me $40 or $70, whatever you want to charge. That's fine, right? But then this is what you're receiving. Then let's see what the reception to that is. And then if people are loving it, if people are like, my goodness, we want more. Not only do we want more, but we want a lot more. Not only do we want a lot more, we want a lot more at a fast, consistent cadence. Only then could you then be like, hey, you know what, let's turn this a live service game. For example, in spite of what it is called, I think Helldivers 2 is actually kind of like the perfect poster child for what I'm trying to say. Helldivers 2 is much more a multiplayer game than it is a live service game. Yes, I know it came out with a lot of content, and I know that they had, kind of weekly updates, and, it has seasons, quote unquote, but it still feels a lot more traditional compared to something like a Fortnite. So if Helldivers 2 hadn't hit that viral moment, then it could have been a slower, more steady drip that is much more manageable by a studio size of like 200 to 300 people. Now that it has hit that moment of virality, like people know it, it's become a household name in many gamer households. Yeah, go ahead, staff up for it, push out your studio size, to be able to handle it and deliver the content. So I feel like that should be a strategy that not only Sony but many other companies go about. Create great singular, perhaps super niche multiplayer experiences. Then if you pull out 12, right, like Sony had the ambition of, maybe 3 of them are going to hit that virality factor. Maybe 3 of them are going to want that constant demand from the player base. And then staff up for something where you're like, okay, we're going to convert this into a live service. Now we're going to give you the seasons, and we're going to give you the this and the battle passes and the whatever other BS comes with the live service component. So that was a thought that I had. So listen, I know I've been missing from the channel and everything. I think it's been like 2 weeks or more since I put the last video. But I've got to say, these days, the gaming conversation is just not that exciting. A few other personal details to kind of go over. Number one, I have decided that I truly don't really value day one titles. We had a conversation about it a few times, kind of me pondering it, I suppose in real time. And now I'm just like, yeah, I don't really. Day one, getting a game day one. I'm not talking about in a subscription, just buying the game on the first day that it's available, or even pre-ordering the game, which you should probably never do, right? That is often the worst version of that game. Often, right? Not always, right? But often it is the worst version. And in that sense, I don't know. I'm playing Cat Quest at the moment. By the way, it was a person from the chat, Podorx chat, I think, that put me onto Cat Quest. Fantastic game. I'm playing Cat Quest 2 at the moment. Fantastic game. I came to it years later, and I'm loving the hell out of it. It's so great to play a game that's finished, that's polished, that has received all of the love that the developers could possibly give it, and it's done. And I value that much more than, I suppose, catering for FOMO or doing any of these other things that people do in order to get a game day one. I don't know. Going forward, I'm going to be very selective about which games I buy day one. The other day, I saw Astrobot being put for a price that was really good. I'm looking forward to playing Astrobot. But then I thought to myself, look at the day that is coming out. At that time, would you even have the time in real life, taking into account everything else that is going on? Would you have the time to actually sit down and play this game? And the answer is probably not. So why would I buy it or pre-order it for it to come on the first day, and then it's just going to sit there on my shelf or on my drawer, or just sit there unplayed for months until I can finally get to it? So I'm going to do my best to follow something that I already decided, but it's basically like, I'm only going to buy a game if I'm within 2 weeks of actually playing it and starting it and actually going through the experience, because otherwise it's like, boy, I'll wait. By the way, this doesn't apply to indie games, because indie developers need the help whenever you can give it. So I've been on an indie purchasing spree. It's been great. It really has. Playing. I just finished playing Cat Quest this year. I played Omno. I played the Guidance Between. Indie games are great. If you are, for whatever reason, you're one of those people that is feeling sort of disillusioned with AAA games. You know, like you're feeling that kind of like, oh, I don't know, the games used to be better in the past. You know, no judgment, but give indie games a go. There are so many amazing indie games. I just finished playing Dave the Diver. So great. Go ahead and play an indie game because they are a huge amount of gems that are just sitting there waiting for you, either in your PlayStation Plus collection or an affordable price on sale or even full price. They are completely worth it. So go ahead, play one of those. So many wonderful indie games. Another decision that I came to is, oh God, what was it? So I don't value day one games. Oh, you know, I should have written it down. This is what happens. Normally I write down the things that I want to touch on. God damn, it's letting me go. You know what? I'm gonna let it go. As soon as I finish this particular video, I'm gonna remember exactly what I wanted to say, and that's the way that life is. So, in any ways, I've got to go. I've got to go. You've got to go. You've got things to do, right? You've got to go ahead to do the things that you have to do. Thank you for being here and, you know, speaking with me. Go ahead and put things in the comment section. You know, I will say it, or I won't. But it doesn't matter. You know, it's good for you to just express yourself anyway. Other people, someone will say it. So just put it down there. Just write your thoughts. You know, somebody on this planet will appreciate it at some point in time. So don't be afraid. Just go ahead, leave a comment. Even if your comment is just like, this is a comment, just put it in there. Someone will appreciate the irony. Let me tell you. I appreciate comments under other people's videos. People will appreciate your comment under my video, even if I don't appreciate that comment because I don't say, I don't know, I don't usually check the comments. But I should and I will at some point, so you should and you will also. So, yeah. Aside from that, is there anything else to discuss like in gaming news recently? There's been a lot of like, ooh. Now I'm thinking about the news of the week, like the Avad game being delayed and everything. You know what? Y'all can have it. Avad is delayed. It's for your backlog. It's fine. It's my fault. You know, Phil Spencer heard me say at the start of the year that I was going to focus on my backlog. He recognized how great an idea that was. That's on me. I apologize for that. And that's pretty much all I say about that. So you know what? That's okay. Go through your backlog. There are so many great games you still haven't played. You know the ones that look at you and you look at them and you feel guilty. Go ahead and play those games, you know. Get yourself a PlayStation Portal. It's going to help you play more games than you ever have before. It's going to come into handy way more than you imagine that it will. But before you do so, just make sure that you test the remote play functionality with your phone or your other devices that you already have to make sure that it's actually a good fit for your particular Wi-Fi situation, PlayStation 5, network communications thing, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, the Portal is completely worth it. So go ahead and enjoy that. The PlayStation VR 2 was recently discounted, but I don't think it was discounted in Australia. If it was discounted in Australia, let me know. I will be interested to see what the price is. I guess it will be around $500 here, which is still too much to kind of like purchase for something I don't think I'm going to use that much, but it will be a good sign, especially if they keep it at that price. So yeah, but if you're in the States and you have it for only $350, bro, you probably should get it just to see what it's like. And then you can just, you know, send it to me after you're done. Anyways, that's just me rambling. Go ahead, have a great day. I'll talk to you next time.